Called meeting. Good evening and welcome to the Planning Commission of the City of Moreno Valley. I now call this meeting to order on February 10th, 2022 at 7:18 p.m. May we have a roll call?
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Here.
Commissioner Sims.
Here.
Vice Chair Desjardins.
Here.
Commissioner Cobian.
Here.
Commissioner Chen.
Here.
And Chair Korzik.
Present. Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance will now be led by our newest commissioner, Matthew Chen.
Please rise for a Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge
allegiance
to the flag
Of the United States
of America
and to the
the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chen. We're move to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion and a second, please?
I move.
Commissioner Gutierrez moves, and the second?
Second.
And I sounded like Commissioner Cobian. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. May we please have the
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sims.
Yes.
Commissioner Cobian.
Yes.
Commissioner Chen.
Yes.
Vice Chair Desjardins.
Yes.
And Chairperson Korzik.
yes.
Thank you.
Comments procedure. During the public comment period for each item, as well as during the public comment period for items not on the agenda, each member of the public who has signed up to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes. If you do not wish to make public comments, please be aware that if you are attending this meeting through the Zoom platform, you will be displayed as a speaker. Those wishing to view the meeting without making comments can do so online via the city's website at www.moval.org/MV3LIVE. This link is available through the city's website and can also be viewed on YouTube Live and on channel NDTV3. The commission has established an overall time limit for comments on these items. Members of the public must direct their questions to the chairperson and not to other members of the commission, the applicant, the staff, or the audience. The next item is public comments on any item not on the agenda. Are there any speakers listed?
We have 3 speakers on the agenda.
Okay. Once again, these are items not on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Grace, would you mind introducing them, please?
Absolutely. We have George Haig, followed by Tom Thornsley and Susan Zeitz.
George Haig, can you hear us? If you can, go ahead and speak.
I don't have a timer on my phone. Grace, do you have a timer?
We have a timer ready.
Okay, great. Thank you.
He's muted.
I have a timer and I'm ready.
George Haig, you can go ahead and talk.
Bob, would you be able to offer the unmute to Mr. Haig?
I have either he is not accepting it, or if he's on a phone, he'll have to hit *6.
Could we move on to the second person and then go back to Mr. Hague?
Do we have Tom Thornsley? Or Susan Seitz?
We have a hand raised for a phone number. I'm going to assume that that's Mr. Thornsley. So it'd be *6, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Just a minute, then I have to, jeez. Okay, this is George Hague. Because of, oh, he just destroyed what I was reading. Stop, please. You covered my screen. I can't read what I wrote. Please stop the counter, please. You just covered up my email.
Mr. Hague,
Please stop.
okay, I'm just going to say we have received your emails.
No, I wrote an email to give to both this section of the agenda and the other section of the agenda. What you just did with the timer makes it so I cannot read the email on my computer. It covers it up. So don't give me a timer, okay? I guess is the solution. Okay?
Second, I'm going to put a timer on my iPad. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, go.
Because of Senate Bill 535, a large portion of Moreno Valley south of State Route 60 is designated as a disadvantaged community. This is due in large part to truck diesel pollution. Every time we approve a project that causes trucks to come into our city, they bring their pollution, which causes health impacts and therefore expands that area that will be designated as disadvantaged. I'm pleased you voted down the Moreno Valley Trade Center for that very reason and because of its close proximity to existing homes, as well as land zoned for future homes. To put the health of families at risk for a few jobs is not worth it. The general plan update approved last June tried to include protections for families from pollution of diesel trucks by setting aside land which would allow warehousing. Every time a warehouse developer asks for a general plan amendment, there are probably serious problems for Moreno Valley residents. 3 warehouse developers have asked for general plan amendments since last June. Moreno Valley Trade Center is one that wanted you to change the land zone for homes to allow a large warehouse. Then there is the Heacock Commerce Center near Gentian, which is again proposed on land zoned for homes and within 20 feet of existing homes. The city needs to tell developers no to general plan amendments, which would allow warehousing. I also hope you will tell staff that you want communications from people, organizations, and agencies on a project at least 24 hours before the hearing and ideally 48 hours, with others as they come in. At the start of the Compass Danby Centerpoint warehouse meeting, you were given letters with no time to read them. Some were more than a week old. One of those letters pointed out there was a school 150 feet away from the project, but the developer and staff report said there was no school nearby, but you had no time to read the letters. You must have letters made available with time to read and consider their contents. This project also, the Compass project, asked for a general plan amendment because the commercial land on which it was approved was supposed to act as a buffer between the existing warehouse to the south and family homes, apartments, and the school across the street to the north. I asked staff several times to forward you 2 letters for tonight's hearing, which did not make the agenda packet. One was sent a week ago, and the other's a few days ago. I received an email about now 90 minutes ago. Emails were transferred to the Planning Commission ahead of this meeting. This is not acceptable to you or the public. You must be given time to read comments.
Media, can you please, if we're at past 3 minutes, can you please stop? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Hague, but you are addressing an item on the agenda tonight. This is for public comments, not on the item on the agenda. So unless
I am not. That was not on tonight's comments. Okay. That was not about it. I have
30 seconds time. You have 30 seconds left. It starts now.
Anyway, I hope you set a standard that requires staff to give you all the letters that were received 48 hours before the meetings. And I hope you got all the ones I sent earlier. Ideally, you should have 2 weeks for the thousands of pages you are required to read and the public is required to read instead of about a week on the agenda packet. I would
Okay,
hope you would try. Also. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Is Tom Thornsley? Tom Thornsley or Susan Seitz?
I can allow Susan Seitz to go ahead and talk.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Susan Seitz.
Could we please have the timer also come up as well?
Yes, please, on all of them.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Oh, good. Okay, this is Susan Seitz. And I believe that Moreno Valley has a severe case of letting the tail wag the dog. We need to stop letting the developers take away Moreno Valley's diversity by carving up our city and our northeast end of Moreno Valley. Moreno Valley must put a stop, adhere to the line drawn, not in the sand, but in the general plan. Stop letting developers change the land to suit their projects. They are business people out to make money, and they know what they're doing. Tell the developers, we have a general plan, 2040. Find land zoned appropriately for your project. Moreno Valley no longer allows changes to land use zonings to suit developers' projects. Moreno Valley has a reputation of approving amendments and zoning changes because developers have been getting away with it, despite our general plan or citizen input. So it's no surprise developers come to Moreno Valley and buy property not zoned for their project. Is it because the land zoned for their project costs more? It is not our responsibility if the developers waste their money and time thinking Moreno Valley will let them change our land uses to suit their projects. As citizens, we expect you to uphold your responsibilities to us, not to the developers. Everyone here is supposed to speak for the citizens, a fact that seems long forgotten. That's it.
Thank you, Susan. Have a third speaker.
Let's mute us again.
Who's the next
do
to
we
talk,
have-
Grace?
Do we have Tom Thornsley in? If not, he was the last one on the list.
I do not see Tom Thornsley in there.
Okay, then that completes the list for our non-public hearing items.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent calendar. At this time, we have no items. The next item on the agenda is non-public hearing items. At this time, we have no items. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing item. Item number 1, this is a continued public hearing item from January 13th, 2022's Planning Commission meeting. The applicant requests approval of entitlement for a conditional use permit for a pilot travel center to develop a 7.28 acre site with a 14,087 square foot pilot travel center. For the record, this item was continued to allow staff and the applicant to address the following specific issues. Number 1, the project trip generation summary, and number 2, the security plan and World Logistics Center specific plan for overnight parking provisions. May we please have the staff report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time,
This is Commissioner Sims. I have a a point of order I want to ask before we get into proceeding forward.
I would say, go ahead.
So I just want to confirm with staff that the project, the pilot, or whatever the name of our project that we're going into hearing right now was continued. Is that correct?
The public hearing itself was not actually, the item as an agenda was, the item was continued.
Okay.
In order to allow for these to open. The public hearing would need to be reopened by the chair in order to receive comment on the 3 items that were asked by the, for the 3 items that it was continued on behalf of.
Okay. So I just for clarity, I want to understand that if I recall correctly, there was a public hearing opened. We heard testimony from the applicant with the staff report, the applicant. We heard multiple public comment. And then from what I recall, the public hearing was closed. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. So I guess, so what we're saying here is it's at the chair's discretion to open this back up for public hearing. Is that correct?
Correct. Commissioner Sims, if I may, I'd like to introduce Interim City Attorney Steve Quintanilla to provide a brief summary on both that as well as regarding Commissioner Chen's ability to vote on this item this evening.
Yeah,
we actually have that intent.
First, I would like to raise my question about that before Steve or Mr. Quintanilla starts in on it. So it's my understanding within the last week or so, Mr. Chen was added to the Planning Commission. And welcome aboard, Mr. Chen. We will meet each other virtually. So welcome aboard, and thank you for your time and service going forward. So nothing I'm about to say is anything personal about this. It's just I have concerns as just from a public transparency and for just the consistency of what is said and heard. The public hearing was held extensively with significant public comment that a person or folks that on the dais heard in person and could hear the intensity thereof in real time. I understand with technology, people can watch video and this and that and the other thing. Is it appropriate for a new commissioner to come in after all the public testimony is heard and it is closed and now under a continued item to be able to really sit in and participate fully and have that vote counted? That is my question. It's nothing against Mr. Chen. I'm sure he's a fine person. I just, for Brown Act compliance, I don't want, however this project goes, I don't want somebody to come point their finger and raggle at us, as there's been other issues at the council level about Brown Act violations. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Welcome aboard, Mr. Chen, to the Planning Commission. So 2 issues. So technically, the public hearing is like a court hearing. So the public hearing encompasses several components, one of which is the staff report, one of which is the applicant's presentation, commissioners' questions of staff, and then the public testimony is actually a component of the public hearing. So where we left off last time is that we've gone all the way up to deliberation. We went through public hearing, the public testimony period, and in the middle of deliberation, there was a continuance. And so what we did is that we continued the entire public hearing, but we continued it to pick up at the deliberation phase. However, the public should be allowed to comment on the 3 items that are being presented, because technically it's new information that's being presented to the commission. So I would recommend that after we hear the staff report and there's questions of the commission, questions of staff by the commissioners, that the chair reopen the public testimony period, but limit the testimony only to these three items and then close it. Now, with respect to Commissioner Chin, this issue has come up a lot. And so if Mr. Chin has listened or has watched the videotape of the public hearing, there's nothing that precludes him from participating in today's hearing. However, I caution him to not raise any issues that were already discussed and to limit any discussion to the three items that are being brought back to the commission. But yes, he can participate, provided that he states for the record that he watched the video of the last public hearing. Does that make sense?
It does, but I have a further question. You know, I've been questioning this all week. He cannot ask any questions that were from the last deliberation. So does that make it fair that he can't go in and, like how we all dissected everything, he cannot do that? So does that that removes him from that part of the process that's
correct.
Getting where we are today? I question that.
Yeah, and that's up to him, or it can actually be a decision of the chair too. But I'm just saying at this point there is nothing to preclude him from participating in today's public hearing, provided that he limits his questions and his discussion to the three issues that are being brought back. So I can't advise, I can't instruct him one way or the other as to whether he should participate or not participate.
But the law
But you, as Madam Chair, you have the discretion to make that determination.
But the law says he's allowed to do this. You've read.
Yes, correct.
I go back to when we did World Logistics Centers. I was new on the commission. I was going to Europe on a pre-planned trip, and they went over this in all kinds of ways to see how, if I could vote. They said the only thing I could do was I had to be present at the first meeting to hear everything. And then I could miss the next meeting and catch up. And then I was there for the vote. But they made it very a firm thing that I had to be there for the first meeting. So that's the only reason I'm questioning this years later, because I know we went through a lot of discussion on this. But you're sure that this is allowed?
Yeah, it is. It is. There's nothing in the law that prohibits it.
Okay. Well, this will be up to our newest commissioner to decide if he feels I'm not going to say anything.
And once again, he'll have to state for the record that he did actually view the video.
Okay. At what point would we have him do that?
Oh, he can do it now.
Do it now. Okay. Okay. So we've got that. We've got that figured out. Okay. Okay. Is there anything else, Sean, that you need to say?
Yes, but I was going to allow Commissioner Chen to make a statement if he so wishes first.
Thank you. Yeah, so I received everything last week and I've been looking through everything. I've watched the videos and I'm confident that I am ready to participate tonight.
Okay. And you do understand that the only items you can bring up are the ones that we're discussing tonight. You can't go back onto anything. As long as you are fully aware of that and you're confident, we will accept that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So then, if there are no further questions regarding for the city attorney, I would suggest that we do move forward to the presentation, which will be made this evening by Associate Planner Jeff Bradshaw.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, Chair Corsick and members of the Planning Commission. I'm going to go ahead and repeat, and I apologize that we're repeating this, but I think it's important just in the way of background. Some of the information that Chair Corsick already provided in her introduction of this item. So again, by way of background, this project actually goes back to December 9th. This was originally intended to be presented to the Planning Commission on December 9th of 2021. That item was continued to the January 13th, 2022 agenda at the request of the applicant. On January 13th, the Planning Commission continued the proposed project as was just explained. to tonight's meeting, to the February 10th, 2022 agenda. And again, specifically to allow the applicant and city staff to prepare additional information for tonight's meeting. That included a trip generation summary, which is information that was provided to both the public and to the Planning Commission as an attachment to the staff report for tonight's meeting. That is a summary of content that is contained within the original traffic study that was discussed at the January 13th hearing. The other item, as mentioned, was the preparation of a security plan. That was a draft security plan was prepared by the applicant. It was reviewed by planning staff as well as our police department. And that item was provided to each of the planning commissioners by email, distributed to them by email as a confidential document that you should have had the opportunity to review before this evening. And again, the third item of discussion this evening is content from the World Logistics Center specific plan, particular to overnight truck parking. Thank you, Sean, for the next slide. And this, I apologize for how much text there is. PowerPoints, I think, are generally intended to be a little less heavy on the text, but each of these points or bullets are important. And I'm going to take the time to actually read the bullets because I think it's important to get these items into the record for discussion purposes. And so as it states before you on the screen, Kimley Horn prepared a memorandum summarizing the project chip generation discussed in the project's original transportation impact analysis. The intent of the proposed project is to service passenger cars and trucks that are already on the existing roadway system. The proposed project is not considered a destination location. The majority of the project trips would be existing trips from State Route 60 or the local roadway system. A trip in the traffic impact analysis is identified as a single vehicle movement either into or out of the project site. Each vehicle patronizing the Pilot Travel Center will generate 2 trips. For transportation modeling purposes, a passenger car equivalent or PCE factor was applied to the project trucks. PCE is defined as a unit used to represent the impact of a large vehicle on a road by expressing it as the number of equivalent passenger vehicles. The traffic impact analysis analyzed project trips both with and without reduction factors, and reduction factors include internal capture reductions. If we could go to the next slide. Thank you, Sean. And so the traffic summary memorandum, which again was provided in the staff report, identified the following information. Trip generation before applying traffic reduction factors the project was estimated through that section of the report to generate the following: 2,389 passenger cars, which equates to 4,777 passenger car trips, 400 trucks, which equates to 800 truck trips, or a combined total of 2,789 vehicles, or 5,577 daily trips. And again, these are movements occurring and measured at the project's driveways. After applying the internal capture rate reduction factors, the project is estimated to generate the following: 2,078 passenger cars, or 4,156 car trips. The reduction factors made no difference in terms of the truck trips. With reduction factors employed, 400 measure is still 400 trucks or 800 truck trips to the site. The combined total being 2,478 vehicles, or 4,956 daily trips. And if we could go to the next slide, Sean. So the second point of interest on the commission's part was a security plan. That is a condition of approval, or was even on the 13th, a requirement, already a condition of the project, the preparation of the plan. As a condition of approval, that plan had not been prepared yet, but the applicant could saw and heard the concern of the commission and agreed to take the time to go ahead and prepare a draft security plan now, so we could have that information available to you, just so you can see specifically what the applicant developers committed to do in the way of security for the project. That draft security plan, again, once prepared, was provided to city staff. It was reviewed by city staff as well as Riverside County Sheriff's Department. And comments provided from both the city and the Sheriff's Department were then incorporated into the plan. And if we could go to the next slide, Sean. So with respect to truck parking, the city's municipal code has no prohibition for overnight truck parking. From the perspective of the World Logistics Center specific plan, that document does identify that overnight truck parking is prohibited within the boundaries of the specific plan. In response to the concerns associated with the idea of overnight truck parking, the conditions of approval provided at the January Planning Commission meeting have been modified to include the following. And so the staff report provided to you this evening includes two resolutions, one for the environmental document and the other for the project itself. As an attachment to the project resolution are the project conditions of approval. And so that set of conditions of approval presented to you this evening includes these two additional requirements, which the applicant has agreed to. The first being the security plan that I just described. The second being a condition that would require the installation of signage on the site that would identify limits to on-site parking associated with federal resting period standards as provided by the applicant. And so the applicants agreed to this condition to provide and post signage on the site, limiting the parking, overnight parking for trucks to no more than what the federal resting period would allow. Those are the three items. With that, I would again reiterate to you staff's support of the project as presented to you this evening. Staff's recommendation would be Planning Commission approval of an adoption of both Resolution 2021-01 and Resolution 2022-02 approving the project as presented to you this evening. That concludes my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
At this point, I'm going to open this up to Commissioner questions of staff. I once again want to caution the commissioners, the only questions we can be asking at this time relate to what was just said. We closed the public hearing on the other part of the document. So with that, any commissioners that would like to speak and ask questions, could you please use the little raise your hand button? If you know how to do that, if not, just jump in. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Bergares.
On security, the applicant agreed to all the conditions that we needed from our law enforcement to protect our city and our streets.
Yes, Commissioner Bergares, and the applicant has agreed to yes, the comments from both city staff as well as the specific comments from the police department. And those comments are incorporated into the draft document that was provided to you.
Great. So everybody came to an agreement about security for the well-being of the city. Once again, the well-being of the city, the law enforcement, city staffers, and the developer came to an agreement for the safety of the people.
Yes, the applicant took the time to work with us between the January 13th meeting and tonight's meeting, specifically to respond to those concerns from the commission, and has committed to satisfy just exactly what you said.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Any other commissioner questions at this point?
My hand is raised.
I see it. You can speak.
I was waiting for the command to go.
You're so polite. Go ahead.
Or maybe you were saying and you were muted. I couldn't hear, but anyhow. So I want to confirm again that the 2,800 or plus or minus World Logistics Center, that specific plan that is supposedly one of the world, if not one of the world's biggest, if not the largest World Logistics Center. Does that in fact include logistics support facilities within the specific plan?
So yes, it does include logistics support facilities within the specific plan.
Okay. And I'd like to just reiterate for the record again, that is it true that the World Logistics Center plan that is for truckers and for logistic facilities with facilities for truckers that would accommodate resting period prohibits overnight rest period, overnight parking for trucks and whatnot at the logistic support facilities?
Yes, the specific plan does identify that overnight parking is prohibited.
Okay.
I would note this project is not within World Logistics Center, however.
I do understand that.
Yeah.
I'm very clear about that.
Mhm.
I just want to remind that there is 2,800 acre feet with in and out off of World Logistic Parkway to facilities that would be proposed, such as this pilot project. So we're disallowed from asking anything about what the land use is across the street from this proposed project. Is that your understanding? Is that your direction, Chair Korzak?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay. My next question is, does the traffic analysis for this project include the continued Moreno Valley Trade Center?
For that, I will defer to Michael Lloyd.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. The traffic study performed does not include that project specifically.
Do you have a sense, Mr. Lloyd, what the truck? I'm not at my house right now, so I don't have that report. What was the daily AM/PM truck traffic proposed from Moreno Valley Moreno Valley Trade Center?
My apologies, Commissioner. I don't have that data in front of me either. However, I do have some additional data for other surrounding projects that I'd be happy to share if so asked.
I would enjoy to hear that.
Okay, thank you. So my recollection from the last meeting, there was requests for truck trips associated with Aldi, Prologis, Skechers 2 expansion, as well as WLC. So the additional information that I can provide tonight is that the Aldi and Prologis projects are fully built and fully occupied. Therefore, the counts conducted for this project incorporate those trips as part of existing conditions.
Good.
For Skechers 2, the traffic study performed for that second phase of the Skechers project assumed 0 truck trips through the roundabout at Redlands and Eucalyptus. And that was based upon a settlement that was reached for the original approval of the first building. So as part of the settlement agreement, Highland Fairview, the project proponent, agreed that they would direct traffic back to what is now WLC Parkway. So as a matter of fact, based upon that settlement agreement, the traffic study assumes 0 trucks through that particular intersection. For the WLC specific plan, the project traffic study assumed approximately 5% of the trips for the overall site would be going through this particular intersection. So I did some reverse engineering, if you will. I kind of backed into the numbers based on the overall projections, and based on my calculations during the AM peak hour for the WLC, It's projected to have approximately 35 trucks going through the roundabout. Again, based upon that 5% projection number. In the PM peak hour, it's projected to produce 25 trucks through the roundabout. And over the course of 24 hours, again, based upon the 5% projection, it would be approximately 540 trucks over the course of 24 hours.
Okay, thank you. And so the only
may I interject for just one moment? Media, would you please readmit Steve Q into the panelists? Thank you. I apologize, Commissioner Sims.
So what we're seeing is the traffic counts that Kimberly Horn used for this analysis includes build out of Aldi and Pro Lodges. It has 0 coming from Skechers 2, there is little to no traffic coming from this. I can vouch for that. I never see trucks coming from Skechers, the first phase, or they have. I don't think they're occupied Skechers 2 yet. It looks like they're still working on that. But anyhow, so there's 0 from the Skechers coming to the roundabout, and then for giggles and grins, we're saying 35 trucks in AM peak and 25 trucks in PM peak that's going to go into the roundabout, plus whatever car or passenger cars go into that. Or is that inclusive of that?
No, the numbers I provided were trucks only. You are correct.
Okay. So that's about 35 trucks a minute. So that's what, 1 every 2 seconds. Is that my little over less than 2 seconds? Is that my guess?
The number I provided was 35 trucks within the peak hour. So that would be over the course of 60 minutes. And then the 25 number that I provided, again, was the PM peak hour. So 25 trucks over the course of 60 minutes.
Okay. All right. I thought I was an engineer. I guess that's why I'm not very good at it. I can't do the math. Forgot how to convert minutes and seconds. All right. So 1 every 2 minutes is what you're saying.
Approximately, and again, we're talking averages. So obviously there will be periods of time where you'll see 2, possibly 3 trucks at a time, and then you'd have many minutes in between the next truck.
Okay, and then okay, so the other questions I have as far as traffic is, so we don't. I ran out of time to see what the truck traffic was coming out of the Moreno Valley Trade Center, but there would be probably some amount similar, but maybe less than what the Aldi Pro Lodges existing is, because that's I don't know what the sum of the total square footages of all those, but there would be some percentages, for that. So anyhow, all right, and then the other question I have is, does the traffic analysis provided for the pilot include the potential or the traffic that would be generated by the proposed AM/PM that's at the northwest corner that's going to be heading to the Planning Commission here shortly?
No, no. So that project was not included either as part of this analysis.
Okay. Then the other thing that I'd like to have some clarity, because I am not a traffic engineer, is I think I got my mind wrapped around passenger car equivalents. And so if I recall, the passenger car equivalents, you use not you, but traffic engineers use for every truck, that's an equivalent to 3 passenger cars, the impact of 3 passenger cars for modeling purposes.
That is correct for what is identified as heavy vehicles. There's obviously different truck types. So for the largest, heaviest truck type, we would assume a PCE, passenger car equivalent of 3. That is correct.
Okay. I'd like, so apparently state legislation changed it for CEQA rules on the traffic analysis and modeling. They went from a level of service. So, if you were at an intersection, then the old way of doing the traffic for CEQA mitigate or CEQA traffic impacts, we would all go, oh, well, it's existing, it's a B level, and with the project, it's going to be a D level or whatever. You know, you could go through some, and there's some amount of like a bullseye. You'd start at the project and work out some way out to see how far the certain intersections are impacted. So my understanding is legislature has changed the requirements to move away from the level of service type analysis of modeling and to describe the impacts to a vehicle miles traveled. So could you explain what does that mean to a lay person? What did that mean from a traffic engineer's standpoint that models traffic impacts for CEQA documents? What does that change? What did that change do?
So you're absolutely correct, Commissioner. And I believe the dates were 2020. So we're about 18 or so months into this new world we live in for traffic engineers, at least. As you described, the old system from a CEQA standpoint was level of service. And level of service, the best way to think about level of service is it's kind of like grades you get at school. So if the level of service is A, that's the best you can possibly have. Traffic is moving. If level of service is F, that means we've got gridlock, very poor operations. And it's really a measure of congestion, the amount of traffic at a specific location. And so we've moved away from that to, as you mentioned, vehicle miles traveled. And vehicle miles traveled is essentially, we're looking at the lengths of trips. So I don't want to get on the soapbox in terms of what's good or bad in terms of an analysis. From a CEQA standpoint, it's vehicle miles traveled. So the longer the trip is, the more potential you have for an impact. The shorter the trip is, the less likely you are to have an impact. I don't know if that provides clarity to your question, but that's the best I can do. And if the applicant has his traffic engineer available, he may be more eloquent than I.
Well, I could just say from a contextual standpoint, it's hard to get your mind wrapped around what does it mean a vehicle mile traveled, because I knew when I got a D, well, I never got one, but I was always worried about getting a D in my, anyhow, but in all seriousness, the level of service gives context. And so you go, oh, well, it was this, and now we expect to have that. Here, for instance, a vehicle mile traveled, potentially the actual amount of travel from the freeway to a pilot is from the off-ramp back to whatever it's in hundreds of feet rather than miles of distance. So it seems to me I don't know. I just can't get my mind wrapped around the level of congestion. So anyhow, I'm not going to deliberate yet. So I will move on. I do have a question to staff that just as far as this is moving away from traffic is on the I believe you mentioned there was going to be 40 new positions or jobs with this facility if approved.
That is what I recall the applicant identifying at the previous meeting. I would note that we are moving away from the 3 topic items for this evening.
Sorry, Jeff, that's away from the topics.
So we could address. Yeah.
One other question I have is what is there is a term used multiple times in the Kimley-Horn traffic analysis and then the supplemental memorandum we received in dated January 25. and there's a term called bypass traffic. And I'm going to say what I think I understood it to mean, and if that could be confirmed. Bypass traffic would mean traffic that is already existing that would be drawn to the project.
Commissioner, this is Michael Lloyd again. That's my understanding as well, but I would suggest getting that confirmation from the traffic engineer just to make sure our understandings are accurate.
Okay, I guess if the bypass traffic, if a truck is going east or west on the 60 or a passenger car, a bypass would be that car was heading. If a truck was heading to the desert to go make a drop or go pick up or heading to Arizona, and they said, "Oh, I'm going to stop." So they were already going to go, but for the pilot being in here, they would have kept going because there wouldn't have been a truck stop. But they're going to bypass off of the freeway, divert, and come into this facility. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, and the return would be right back to the freeway and continue on that trip.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioners? I have a small screen and I can't see all of you, and I can't see if your hand is raised. So why don't you just jump in if you do have a question?
Okay, my question concerning security, and thank you to the applicant for submitting the security plan. I read through it. Wonderful lighting, fencing, CCTV, fire operational blueprints. I guess that this is more to the city. I know when we do other projects such as cannabis, we require certain security, that sort of thing. Let me see if I can frame this the right way. Is there a proportion or rubric or some type of, as a business reaches a certain amount of square footage or a certain amount, maybe size or whatever it is there a rubric that is maybe a proportion to say they have to have a certain amount of CCTVs or maybe an actual on-site guard or something like that with the police department? Because, they say, oh, well, the police department signed off on it. Is there some standard that they look at to say, well, you're 1,500 square feet, you have to have excellent, or is that just up to the applicant?
So there's a couple of different ways that it's actually approached. In terms of the cameras and the way that the cameras are designed, ultimately the goal with the cameras is to cover the entire site, interior, exterior, get as much of the site viewed as possible. And as you saw in the exhibits that were presented to you in the confidential documentation, they did identify the camera spread. Ultimately, the final design of that, final layout, the exact technology, all of those items will ultimately be vetted between a security personnel. There are individuals who are actually professionally certified in preparing security plans. It'll be between that individual, the applicant, and the sheriff's department that will ultimately determine all of those parameters and measurements. I cannot speak with any authority on what those thresholds are, but I can say that the goal is always with the camera system to cover the entire site. And ultimately, this project, as prepared and conditioned, has been designated to ultimately allow for security personnel to be incorporated into it. But I don't want to go into any further detail on that due to the confidential nature of the document.
No, I understand that. And I by reading the detail in which they provided the security plan, I didn't want to go into detail either. But, for someone to sign off on, for the police department to sign off on, they must have some type of, okay, well, this is excellent. They go, okay, that's done, that's done, that's done, that's done. Okay, this week.
Yes, there are minimum in terms of, and again, I'm going to focus on the cameras. There are minimum requirements in terms of the camera style and type, how the data is ultimately saved and preserved, and the length of time for which it is saved and preserved. All of those are standards that are actually implemented. The commission has benefited from seeing some of those with some of the past cannabis projects that have went before you previously. And ultimately, the security plan is reviewed. While this is not a cannabis project, the security plan is reviewed much in the same way, ultimately by the police department, because the goal is to ensure ultimately the health and safety of the patrons of the business, the residents of the city of Moreno Valley, and all of its employees and everybody else.
Thank you. No, I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I sense there are no other questions at this point. At this time, would the applicant like to speak?
Yes, ma'am. This is Brad from Pilot. I was with you a couple of weeks ago. Just want to continue to let you all know that I appreciate the opportunity to present this project to you. Hopefully it gets approved, and we look forward to being part of the community in Moreno Valley as a good corporate citizen. We do agree with the additional conditions that have been added to the COAs, and hopefully the information that we've provided at your request has helped to clarify any concerns, but happy to answer any questions you might have of me.
Do the commissioners have any specific questions? I hear or see nothing. Okay, at this point, I am going to reopen the public hearing for public testimony, but it's limited to the discussion of the following matters only: the project trip generation summary, the security plan, and the World Logistics Center specific plan overnight parking provisions. I'm just cautioning the public that if you do go off track, we will stop you. And we are going to have to use the timer at this point. Now the clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on the agenda items. Do we have any persons wishing to speak?
Chair Korzik, I do have eight speakers,
Okay.
starting with George Haig.
Once again, don't cover my screen with the timer, please. I will be talking about traffic on different ways, so please allow me to continue because it does relate to the traffic summary.
Okay, your time has just started.
When does it start?
Right now.
The fact that the World Logistics Center did not want a truck stop for overnight parking should prove to you that such projects are not desirable, even when surrounded by warehousing. Please don't bring this into our city. Safety plan must include 24/7 on-site security personnel to protect the public, as well as enforcing truck idling time and not just rely on electronics. Since a conditional use permit, you can require these things to make it safe for the public. Moreno Valley doesn't need the 5 gas stations. The APM is only 1,000 feet away. The traffic summary shows that the single lane interchange will become a nightmare. It's already designated a level D service. Now we bring in the PM market. Based on the traffic summary, even the dump and diff fees and widening redlands will not improve these bottlenecks as shown by the traffic summary. The project traffic trip analysis fails to include significant traffic from the AM/PM and also for the trade center. The trade center, for those not remembering, had a fulfillment center as part of it with 6,000 daily vans and vehicles on that part of the project. Possible. Add this to that. Approving this project will make Moreno Valley residents' lives more difficult and frustrating because of its traffic. One truck every minute during the 12 hours of daylight is what this project will present. Not quite, but almost one. And then the Trade Center added to that, plus the World Logistics Center added to that. Approving this project, the traffic summary needs to do a better job on the impacts on the land on the other side of Eucalyptus zone for homes. It's sad that staff reports gives the impression that the project is hundreds of feet away from this. Traffic needs to show 800 daily trips will pass only a few feet away from future family homes when using eucalyptus. According to the traffic summary, why would you want to make life difficult and hazardous to our existing and future residents, just to allow truckers who are using State Route 60 to spend several hours parking? Please represent the people of Moreno Valley and not the truckers, most of whom are just passing through our area. With other gas stations planned and existing on Redlands, the residents do not need this one. Once again, the World Logistics Center did not want a truck stop for overnight for a very special reason. They know the problems associated with them. They're not desirable.
Mr. Hay, I'm sorry, time is up. Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Tom Thornsley, followed by Susan Zeitz.
Okay, and we can go back to using the timer if we can. Thank you.
I don't believe Tom Thornsley is in the attendees window.
We can move to the next person.
Do we have Susan Zeitz, followed by David Zeitz?
Go ahead, Susan.
Can I, David, speak first instead of my wife?
Sure.
Okay. So basically what we're coming up to is we've heard all this traffic on the roundabout. And we have not heard any discussions about the overpass, the on and off ramps, the congestion that's going to go there. Also, I've talked to many friends who are truck drivers, and I've mentioned that they wanted to put a pilot in our town, and most of them, in fact, all of them have stated they would not want one in their own town, and they're the ones that go to them. They say they create a criminal element, they create havoc, it's transient, people don't live here, they don't care. I've also heard that people state, well, we'll put the signs up, it's the law, they gotta stick by it. How many people watch people run red lights today? People don't follow the law just because there's a sign up there. Are we gonna have somebody that's gonna tag every truck as it comes in, saying you can only be here for 4 hours, and at 4 hours, make sure that truck leaves? I don't see how that can be done at all. Also, your 3-to-1 element for your trucks to cars, I believe, is at a cruise speed. It's not climbing and grabbing gears, going around at low torque speeds, going around the roundabout, also pulling the hills on and off the on-ramps, going up and over the bridges. I think your number is going to be closer to 8 to 10 because of wear and tear on the road. I don't think we're considering that. Again, I was mentioned that World Logistics Center did not want overnight parking. They do not want facilities in there. They know what kind of hassles these facilities come up with. It is not a good idea here. Again, you also mentioned the cameras. How are you going to put a camera between every truck? How are you going to put a camera looking in the front, the windshield of every truck for any illicit activity going on? You can't. You can't watch it. You cannot, and it proves by traffic laws being broken every day, trust people. You have to make them obey. And by the standards that they've come up with, I don't see it happening. It's going to be a hotbed for dealing drugs, human trafficking, you name it, it's going to start coming up there, and people are not going to want to live near there. And also, why again are we changing our zoning? We just spent thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on the zoning, and now we're looking to change it again. One last thing with 20 seconds.
I do think Mr. Chen should recuse himself because he was not in on this. It looks very suspicious to appoint him right before this particular project was put in, since those particular openings have been open for quite some time. As good faith and a good person, he should recuse himself. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Susan, are you available now?
If there's another person who can go first, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have another person?
Do we have Derek Williams or Christina Torres in?
Yeah, Derek Williams is here. Hello?
Thank you, Derek.
Go ahead, sir.
All right. Well, I mean, I live in the neighborhood, and so do a couple other people in this call. If anybody lived in this neighborhood, you would not want this toilet in your neighborhood anywhere. Trust me, I've been all across the United States at these pilot Flying J truck stops, and they all over time start looking like one huge eyesore, from the criminal element to on down to just poor upkeep, raggedy trucks, raggedy people, not raggedy people, but raggedy vehicles in the parking lot with homeless people living inside of them, needles, drugs, everything. And I have young children that I'm raising up in this neighborhood, and you guys want to keep continuing to make bad planning decision after bad planning because you have no master plan in play. I am encouraging you guys to get this in order here because you keep continuing to make bad decisions and picking up speed along the way. I just don't understand how this continues to be. And it doesn't seem like you guys have any iota that there is a very large neighborhood here, on this side of Moreno Valley. And if Ido Benzibi, y'all's boy, don't even want it in his establishment, now you know that this is bad. Let's stop playing games here. You already know what it is. My wife is in the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, okay? And she's looking at this and just laughing back and forth because you guys already know that this is a bad idea. To even say that there is a plan for security along with the police department, which is the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, I don't even understand how you're coming up with this at all. It's laughable. The last guy, Mr. Haig, who's talking about this is absolutely correct. This is our site, Mr. Sites is absolutely correct. You are talking about an eyesore that's going to get worse over time for the community, for you, and you're going to end up closing it anyway because it's going to just create havoc in this area. Please give us some business in this area where we can grow with. I just bought a Tesla Model Y Performance. I don't need any gas from this place in the first place. And the truck study or the traffic study that's already a level D, please, you guys actually need to wake up in the morning at 4 o'clock and start watching this traffic, both eastbound and westbound, and start telling me how many trucks get on and off of Redlands Boulevard. It would blow your mind. And it's just disappointing that you continue to get this wrong. The study is manufactured in such a way to encourage an approval of a planned business or whatever you guys are doing, but this ad hoc creating of business, a pilot J that, it put this where it needs to be. Put it off WLC Parkway, get Ido Benzibi to buy off on it and keep it out of this neighborhood. Because I'm telling you, you are just poking the bear here. And the more and more the people wake up in this neighborhood that this is going to happen, you're really, this is going to be bad for you guys. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. May we have the next speaker, please?
Christina Torres.
Yes, I'm
Christina. Thank you, Christina.
all right. Okay, so my comments will have relevance to the trip generation and security plan that we're discussing. One is Mr. Bradshaw's PowerPoint mentioned the intent is to serve the traffic existing on the freeway system, and yet we're not taking into account some of the surrounding businesses that might also be using that area. Not only the surrounding businesses within Moreno Valley, but I think also the ones in Riverside over the warehouses near Sycamore Park over there. Also the ones in Beaumont might be coming just to utilize that facility and generating extra trips. So I don't think we need a huge truck stop at this location if there's one already approved 2 miles down the 60 freeway at World Logistics Center Parkway. So I looked at some articles in the Press Enterprise. There was one on June 14th, 2021 that stated that Rancho Cucamonga put a moratorium on new gas stations and expansion of existing ones. It went on to state an analysis by their city's planners showed that revenue from service stations are falling and calls for police and fire services are rising, nearly doubling in 4 years. Importantly, the trend is towards more people driving electric vehicles. Another article in the PE on September 13th, 2021 said Marupa Valley also imposed a moratorium on new gas stations. It went on to state their council member, Chris Baraja, said, fueling businesses bring negative effects to nearby neighborhoods. You should read these articles. They may be eye-opening and further research will probably show similar situations in other cities. Why do we not care in this city? We don't need more businesses that we already have enough of, which contribute to huge traffic problems, dangerous roads, increased crime, and extremely unhealthy air, which we know consists of the worst particulate pollution in the nation. Please don't make it worse. And while I have a few more minutes, I'm going to say also, do these peak truck times that you're talking about with the traffic, do they coincide with the times that the students from the surrounding neighborhoods will be traveling to and from their schools, like the students at Valley View High School and such? So that's all stuff to consider. And also the new, because the truck drivers, I worked with truck drivers before too. I worked in dispatch with big rig drivers that were traveling between here and Arizona, and they don't follow rules very well. They don't get the required sleep they need. They drive tired. They drive through neighborhoods to save time. And I see it all the time. I see it here and in Riverside and everywhere where they're cutting corners and taking roads that they legally shouldn't be on. And that's going to happen here too. Thank you for your time.
May we have the next speaker, please?
I have Luis Palomares, followed by Bob Palomares.
Luis?
Bob Palomares.
Luis and Bob, if you're calling on a phone, you'll go ahead and hit *6.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, I'm in favor of this project. I think it's the right project in the right place for the right reasons. It's going to service a lot of the vehicles, the trucks, and surround the homeowners' vehicles that live around there. You know, everybody's talking about the negativity that it's going to bring. Well, like they said, we've got a city-wide camera system. I don't know if any other city has one, but you can link the security cameras that are in that facility to the ones that are at City Hall. So, you know, and plus, if you have security guards, there you go. You know, people, there's going to be people in trucks doing all kinds of, you know, it's just a negative. They're trying to make it look bad when that's not the truth. You know, we have code enforcement that I'm sure will be there periodically to make sure that things are kept up. This is a very good project. I heard Rafael Brigarias talk about it the last time they were discussing this project, and he made a lot of sense. Everything he said was good about it. So don't let these people scare you. You know, they talk about the pollution. Well, you get more pollution from cars than you do from trucks. You know, there's people that live on both sides of the 60 freeway between Nathan and Paris Boulevard, and there's homes right next to the freeway. You never hear anybody complaining about that. But, you know, going back to the project, this is a wonderful project. We need this project here, so it'll service the trucks that'll be when the logistics are all built in that area. Because the closest one is, I think, in Colton, the Beacon truck stop. And then there's one further down on Milliken. But that one's in Ontario and they're both off the 10. So this is an ideal project and this is the right place to put it. When you talk about pollution, somebody wants to scare you. That's not the truth. These trucks burn very low sulfur fuel and they're kept by the South Coast. The state of California keeps a good eye on them. Every year they have to be certified and make sure they're clean. They're not like the old days when you would see a truck, the smoke coming out of the stack. That's the impression they're trying to give you, these people, when they talk about pollution. But some of them are just call themselves environmentalists. They're just setting up themselves.
This clown doesn't even live in the neighborhood.
No comment.
Anyway, that's all I have to say. This is a great project. Thank you. And congratulations to Mr. Chen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Who else do we have?
Louise Palomares, did she make it in?
Louise, are you there?
Looks like she got dropped out.
Okay, what about Tom Thornsley?
I think we had issues on the first one finding him, didn't we?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so I'd say since he didn't make it into the first one and it doesn't appear to be connected, that we could probably go to.
So if we don't have Louise, she was our last speaker on the list.
Okay, so she dropped out.
Susan.
I'm ready.
Susan's right.
Please, you got 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Susan Sides. I'm against the proposed pilot truck stop fuel station travel center at Eucalyptus and Redlands. It is not in keeping with our previous general plan as well as the 2040 general plan's conceptual outline. Overnight parking will bring even more truck traffic to our land designated and zoned for homes, which is and always has been the appropriate zoning for this rural area. Overnight parking of idling trucks will bring more noise from generators, and idling trucks overnight parking will bring more cancer-causing pollutants into our city and the neighboring homes purchased by people who purchased in a rural residentially zoned area, which during the general plan update 2040, the city said, and I quote, that the pollutant emissions from build out of all land uses within the planning area would far exceed project level the South Coast Air Quality Management District significant thresholds. So if we allow overnight parking, it's just another way of baiting, a way to attract the trucks and the overnight and all the cancer spewing diesel trucks into our city. First, we bait them with the warehouses. Now we're baiting them with a fuel station for overnight parking and a truck stop, basically, in an area that structurally infrastructure can't even support. The overnight parking of idling trucks will bring more noise from the generators into a residential area. Overnight parking will bring...
I would note that these items are not on the topic of the...
Overnight parking? Overnight parking. Overnight parking does bring noise, does it not? If they're parked and they have their generators running, does that not affect them?
Compressors running.
They have compressors, they have generators, refrigerator trucks. In the summer, do you think they're going to park those trucks and sleep in them without the air conditioning going when it's 100 degrees?
So I will remind the commenters. We can stop the time, please. Thank you. I will remind the commenters that the topics for this evening are security, traffic, and also overnight parking associated with the World Logistics Center and those provisions only. Thank you.
They're only going to have, this is only about overnight parking at the World Logistics Center, not at the truck stop?
That was the question of the commission, yes.
Is this truck stop going to have overnight parking? If it's allowed?
They're not going to have.
So
overnight there right now anyway.
to media, can we please remove the individuals that are continuing to chime in and move them to the attendees only and not allow them to jump in again? We've had one individual jump in twice now. We will allow, with regards to Ms. Zeitz, we will allow you to continue.
Thank you. So I was
1 minute left on the clock.
This was about overnight parking at this particular station
in the area.
Am I supposed to start over?
No, there will be 1 minute. The resetting.
I don't have that much more.
Okay.
So it's overnight parking. Well, either place, I guess the pollution is going to be the same. It's still going to bring
pollution is not an item for this evening.
So the traffic and the pollution related to it for overnight parking, park trucks that are idling don't have pollution spewing anymore?
The item on the agenda again this evening is specific to traffic impacts associated with the project, as well as the security plan, and finally, it was a clarification related to the world logistics and whether or not it allowed for overnight parking. Those are the three items. Two. So it is traffic. It is traffic-related impacts, not air quality.
So the infrastructure is more than 60 years old.
Please,
so the roads, that's traffic, overpasses, interchanges, the traffic circle, all will affect the infrastructure and also disrupt everything else out here. There are already many gas stations, so there's really no need for another one that's not that. Okay, overnight parking would be, okay. Well, any overnight parking is going to bring a lot more crime or opportunities for crime. It'll bring a lot more trucks in that maybe are just coming to stop overnight. So it's ruining the night sky and everything else too, and it's affecting the wildlife.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Again, I would ask media if you can, anybody who is, we have a couple of phone numbers and names that are not panelists. If the panelists, if they're not panelists, if they could please be moved back to attendees, I would appreciate it, so that we don't have further interruptions. I see that there are several still on the screen currently. Thank you. I appreciate that. Chair Corsick, the floor is yours again. I apologize for having to step in that manner.
It's very difficult when we're online and people, get extremely heated. And so we did the best we could, and we've heard everyone's comments that was able to get in. And at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing on this. Does staff have any more questions of the applicant? Do commissioners have any more questions of the applicant or the staff before we go into deliberation? When we go into deliberation, we can't ask those questions. So anyone that has any more questions, please speak up now.
To clarify, Chair, we are closing public comment, not the public hearing.
You're right. We're closing public comment. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
It's very confusing tonight. Yeah. I don't sense anything coming from any commissioners. Okay, and at this point, let's see, where are we? Now we're going to close the public hearing and move to deliberations.
Chair, do we want to give the applicant an opportunity to rebut?
Oh, yes, that would be a very good idea. Go ahead, sir. I will.
Yeah, this is Brad also begin. Nothing that I want to speak to as far as a rebuttal. I think we've put forth for you last time, and this time the answers to those questions through our documents and our testimony. But I am available for any questions you might have, and our experts are here as well in case there's any questions of them.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, I will now close the public hearing and we'll move on to deliberations. Who wants to go first?
I'll give it a shot. Looking at the oversight map and looking exactly where this planet, I think it's a great location for it. I hear many comments, trip generation, security plan, and overnight parking at the World Logistics Center. You know, as you drive around the city, especially if you drive down I want to say Heacock next to March Air Force Base, even around the city, there are big red trucks parked on the street because they have no place to park. And I generally don't hear the complaints about that. And they're parked right directly next to houses. Just take a trip down there. You'll see a bunch of big grids down Heacock, right next to March Air Force Base. And they use it as a truck place to park their trucks. For those local drivers that own trucks and they have to park them there, it'd be great for them to have another place to park their trucks instead of right next to the neighbor. I think the comments are great. You know, I appreciate the George Higgs and David and Derek and Christina coming in. Thank you for, you give us that other side of the coin to look at, and you make some wonderful comments there. And then not any particular thing. I know being in the military, my sergeant would say it's great to hear that other side of the coin. Also, we'd like to hear the actual plan or solution. So not just that shouldn't work. I talked to a big friend of mine, and it's funny, he talked to me about pollution and that sort of thing. Guy makes a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I did something about it, and convinced the gentleman that said they bought an electric car. I went out and bought an electric car. I said, I want to do my part too. Well, he says, I do my part. Then he jumped in his big dually, and he jumped into his big truck. And as he started the thing up, black smoke came out. And I guess for him, the pollution was everybody else's problem. So as the tractors roll and the trucks roll and everything else, it's everybody else's in his mind. So again, I'm for the project. I think it's in a great place. I really commend the applicant for listening to our comments and listening to getting those security plans and doing everything they can to help us with this. I don't really have too much to say about that, but thank you.
Okay, who's next?
I'd like to go.
Okay.
Commissioner Tibbs.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sims.
I think it's a great project, but in the wrong spot. I will enumerate why. What is if you read if you all read the traffic report, they use pardon me. There's all these different reduction factors and so forth. But there's one word that sticks out to me significantly, and that's the word bypass traffic. And so what does that mean? There's existing traffic on the freeway right now going east and west on the 60 freeway. What this project will do will be a magnet to suck cars and trucks. And we saw that they're in the thousands per day going to be coming off the freeway, attracted to this facility. I'll say it like they did law school. But for this thing, we wouldn't have those trucks potentially coming right there. So I don't understand why we need another fueling station right there. We have the AM/PM that's going to be proposed. We have the farm market. We have the Easter market, all right there, either existing or proposed on Redlands Boulevard. We have just down the street on Moreno Beach, we have fueling stations. If you drive around within a mile or so or 2 miles of this proposed location, there's adequate fueling stations to provide diesel, unleaded, ethanol, whatever kind of fueling for the area residents. So to me, this is a project to attract more truck traffic right into our neighborhood right there, which goes to the next point. Why would this be something that is attractive to the city? I called the city and asked, was there an economic analysis done to determine how much point of sale and property tax revenue that this would generate? They would not tell me that number. You, as commissioners, we all heard that this is a 40 employee job. These are not high wage jobs. These are not probably going to be, probably the bulk of them will be part-time, multiple people working shifts that will not be able to have a living wage there. It will be, so I don't buy it that this is the employee base or the economic base is based from a city decision to approve this project based on there's going to be jobs here for people. It's a 40-person job generator, not the one that you're going to be able to be an investor and buy property in Moreno Valley, or probably much else there. So the money grab, it's a money grab for the point of sale. And as I remind you, the city just voted to increase our sales tax 1%. So here you're going to have Takis and overpriced convenience store stuff sitting there, plus a zillion trucks coming in there to fill up and generating tax revenue. Right into going to my next thing. It also is right across the street from an R2 zoned area. Our city spent probably $200,000 or $300,000 over a 2-year process to get input from the cities, to get input from the planning commissioners, get input from the city council, went through multiple hearings or workshops we just approved within the last 4 or 5 months a general plan that calls for the property directly across the street from this as R2 designated. I don't think it will go as R2. If it stays residential, which I hope it does, it might be changed to something else. I think that this is an incompatible project right next to the general planned residential property. Second of all, then the next thing, Moreno Valley, the traffic study, it goes around. At the end of the day, the takeaway I really would like you guys to realize, it does not include, if the Moreno Valley Trade Center gets approved, that is going to have a similar truck traffic impact to the intersections right there, to what the Aldi and Prologis is already putting. And my calculations are, by the time the World Logistics is done, the Prologis, the Aldi, this project, and potentially the Moreno Valley Trade Center, if you put in a factor in for them, you're going to have close to 150 to 160 trucks per hour, AM peak and PM peak. You do the math, 160 divided by 60 minutes in a hour, you got 2 or 3, 4 trucks per minute in that roundabout at Eucalyptus and Redlands. It is going to be the cluster of all cluster. Then going further, I don't know how any traffic analysis that hasn't looked at the cumulative impacts to Moreno Valley. I have to admit, I voted for a lot of these warehouses and whatnot. I voted yes on the World Logistics, and maybe in hindsight that was a mistake. But every day, right now, without World Logistics, without Moreno Valley Trade Center, it takes to get. I go to work in the morning. I have to go down 60, and I have to go through the 6215 all the way down to the 9160. It takes me, my commute is 17 and a half miles. It takes me on a good day 45 minutes to get there. And that's right now. And that's AM and PM. And for all of us to sit here and think approving more projects that are going to attract trucks into our city, when is it enough when you are in a stop and go traffic as soon as you cross World Logistics Parkway coming out from Banning, and you're in stop and go traffic in the morning to get through to Riverside? It's absolutely ridiculous. Going on to the safety, I appreciate that the developer or the project proponent has proposed a safety plan, but I say safety plans are only as good as they're enforced. We have lots of safety plans. Like Commissioner Dejanay said, you see trucks parked all along residential areas and whatnot throughout the city. That is not what is allowed. And probably, so a lot of these people probably could call the police. Hey, guess what? I got truck sitting in front of my house. It's really terrible. And there's people sleeping in it overnight and stuff. And they're coming in and out in the middle of the night, banging their doors. The sheriff's got bigger fish to fry than go roust up a driver. They will not enforce this. Second of all, you drive down Camp 60 as it is, there's evidence all along there that nobody respects the rules of not having homeless people encamped at every friggin' off-ramp through our whole city. It's horrible. And here we're gonna put another truck traffic with 3 or 4 acres behind it that's going to be sitting for God knows how long until they build an off-ramp, which will be another encampment point because they're going to be bringing people in. And I don't, the crime and safety thing, that safety plan is only as good if it's enforced. You can have all every morning on KTLA or any whatever channel you watch in the news for your death, murder, kill on the local news, you see people with their Ring cameras recording all sorts of nefarious and capricious acts by people who really don't care if they're caught on video. So anyhow, and lastly, one of the things when I thought I wanted to be a planning commissioner 10 years ago was to think about, our entrances into this city. And, we haven't done anything about that. Our entrances are only going to get worse. Here we're going to have us a big truck stop. I just was in Quartzsite 2 weeks ago for a week, and there's a pilot there. If that's what you want at your, I know the gentleman here says, oh yeah, we take care of our facilities. It's an eyesore at the one in Quartzsite. It's busy. It's just a wreck, and that's 10, 15 years from now, after the glossy paint's gone and there's potholes in the asphalt and it's just going to be a nasty old truck stop. This project is a good project if it was located in the World Logistics Center, and that's where it should be. That's where the truckers are going to go. That's where there's a dedicated off-ramp. It's not needed here for our neighborhood. I'm done.
You are? Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners wishing to make any comments?
I'll go. I'll give it a crack.
Okay.
I'm not going to be as long-winded as Commissioner Sims. I don't think anybody is, but I went ahead and I read all the comments. I even read a lot of the comments on social media on this project. I want to start by thanking the planning department. They did a good job. Pilot did come up with a really good project. I don't have an issue with the security. I think, they're pretty well lit, but, I am going to have to agree with Commissioner Sims on this. It's not in the right place. I'm very familiar with that location. That is my exit as well. And, I see the traffic. I see the potential. And I also see the amount of trucks that are going to be there. It just won't work. That bridge is not built for that. It just won't. I see in the morning the backup of what one truck can do, 2 trucks can do going over that bridge to try to get on the eastbound traffic. Not only that, I read all the letters. I did read the letters. By the way, people said we don't. I read comments on social media. I talked to neighbors in the neighborhood. I talked to, it's just everybody's been talking about it. And it's not that they persuaded me. It's the fact that I'm very pro development, as anybody knows. This is the first time I'm actually going to vote no on anything that the planning department has put forth. And I'm sure I'm shocking Mr. Sims himself because but I just can't see how we're going to get benefit as the residents or the community is going to be benefit from that. Now, if it was at the WLC, I could see that being a benefit for for people driving up and down the 60 to go to Arizona, to Palm Springs, to stop and go. But that exit Redlands is not the exit it needs to be at. And that's my closing comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll jump in next. Commissioner Sims, I agree with you on most of the things that you said. I am my own traffic surveyor. I am on the road a lot. And I can read all the numbers, but I will point one thing out. I went from Frederick to MLK, not high traffic time, but in the morning last week, 110 trucks passed me. Now I'm a slow driver, but 100, to me, that's the kind of survey I need. I drove to Indio for 4 days, going up into the Badlands from where I live on Frederick to the Badlands. Traffic was stopped. So we already have these issues. I've been on the internet checking on what other very progressive cities in this country are doing. And a lot of them are putting moratoriums on gas stations right now because they believe with the major car manufacturers moving more into electric cars, this whole new vision of the next 10, 15 years, that we're not going to need this many gas stations. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, the trends are going, we're not going to need more gas stations. This is an area that we do have that residential really, really close. And coupled with a lot of other things. I have nothing against Pilot, but I really don't think this is the right project for us in this location. I'm not sure even any location based on what is happening in this country and these growing trends of not adding more gas stations. So I am going to vote no. Anyone else? Well, if there are no other opinions that want to be addressed, do we have a motion?
Commissioner Gutierrez, you're muted.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, I was wondering what happened to you.
No, I'm just listening to everyone else. I'm just listening. I want to make a few corrections on behalf of a lot of people that wish there was a larger gas station, a fueling station that accommodates all vehicles, because we are missing the point here. A lot of us like to use two words, truck stop. It is not a truck stop. It is not an overnight truck stop. Okay? Let's make that very, very clear. It is a travel center where different vehicles come, buy fuel, probably buy water, and happy to be in a clean, safe place. This place is being built in a modern era with technology. So please do not use what you see in the old days to compare what's new if it gets approved tonight. That's a plus, okay? Don't close your vision to that, okay? I know in the future, they're gonna build up that ramp because they already did it. They're already doing it on Moreno Beach, where it should have been done years ago. And look at what they're doing on Moreno Beach. That's an example of what's coming next on Redlands Boulevard. Okay, that's next. That's a fact. It's coming next. So it's just a time to wait just a little longer so they can build up that bridge, add more lanes, so make it a lot easier for people to come and go like they're doing on Moreno Beach and what they did on Nason Boulevard, okay? Those are true facts, okay? I want to talk about employees that might be working for Pilot. I work for Chevron gas station, and I see the chaotic problems of a small station where RVs and pickups where they're landscape equipment in the back. Any RV owner knows the chaotic problem they have to look for space when they come in with their 40, 54-foot RV. They gotta wait, especially if the gas station is crowded. And if it has no direction of which way to come in or which way to go out. Ask any RV owner the chaotic problem they have. Okay, that's a fact. So what's good about Pilot, they're gonna have space for you to enter one way and get out another without having to wonder which way am I gonna park my vehicle? Because again, large vehicles have the gas tank on one side of the vehicle. So they gotta go to that pump because the pump does not expand around the RV. Okay, it doesn't do that at all. So that's a problem for a lot of people that have RVs, pickups with campers, and entrepreneurs that have their businesses in the back of their pickup to go to work. Okay, so with that said, I work for Chevron, and they do pay me 18 to 20 bucks an hour. And I only work 3 minutes from the house. I'm home in 3 minutes. So don't please don't say that gas stations don't pay. And maybe a lot of them are part-timers because people are happy to work part-time and go to school or they have second jobs. Okay? I'm happy with my hours. Really, I get good hours and I'm home in 3 minutes, between $18 and $20, depending what shift I work on. So don't talk about the worker. People will love to work near home and be home in 5 minutes, 3 minutes, or in 10 minutes, depending what part of town you work. So let's get that myth out of the, because I am living proof that gas stations do pay well, at least the one I work for. And I hope Pilot will do the same for their employees in the future, because that's the goal, for them to benefit their employees with great benefits. Okay, now, I love what the staff talks about, because it's a fueling station. The staff talks about passenger vehicles and trucks, and you know, there's different kind of trucks, all kind, and I found a few of them. Pickup with campers, shells, RVs, pickup with livestock, because you know, and I know a lot of people in District 3, okay, and District 2 have a lot of livestock, and they pull the big dualies with livestock in the back, and some of these trailers are pretty long. They're not just 2 foot. Some of them are pretty 10 foot, 12 foot long, and they got 4 or 5 horses in them. So they need space to go in and out. Okay? It's not going to happen at Arco on Hickok. It's not going to happen at Shell on Hickok because they're too small. This is why Pilot is proposing something good. And this is why the staff brought this case to us to look at it at a positive way. Because when you talk about crime and drugs and all those things, you are predicting that it could happen. And it might. But this is why I talked about security in the beginning of our meeting. How our police department handling this situation. And they're doing very well working with the developer to do the right thing. Okay? To do the right thing. Now, if we can connect this system with our system, we can see a lot more. But I tell you one thing, if they're recording, police department has a case to prosecute that criminal to the fullest of the law. Just like we do with cannabis. The same thing, to the fullest of the law. Okay? So we got pickups with landscaping equipment. I have a motorcycle. If I'm coming from Palm Springs, heading home, I may want to stop at Pilot and buy gas before I get to Nason. Nothing wrong with that. We are depriving hundreds and thousands of commuters that come off Cactus, Alexandro, Cottonwood, that go on Redlands Boulevard, and I ain't got nothing wrong with the gas station that's been here forever. I'm proud of them. They're there, but they only got 4 pumps. Okay? And you got thousands of cars going down Redlands Boulevard, heading towards the freeway or over to the canyon, and a lot of them cannot stop for 4 pumps. Pilot will do them justice. A lot of justice. Okay? I know. Again, when I work, we're busy. And when I see these big things come in there, it's chaotic. It's a problem. They can cause more problems in a smaller place than a larger place. That's a fact. Okay? Again, in the future, they're going to fix that highway. So we should not lose an opportunity to have this project put there. The World Logistics Center is a different issue. That is a whole different case. Do not mix one with the other. And law legislation has already been approved. That is a done deal. That's done. What Mr. Bizzini don't want them, that's his personal opinion. We know that this business don't want them. All they want you to do is buy gas and move on. There is no sleeping, only according to what is written, the federal law. They have to stop and rest. Rest, not overnight. So we have to obey that law for truck drivers or campers or whoever wants to rest. Okay. Now, in our city, we have a commercial vehicle code enforcement. They're going to be a little bit more busy. Maybe we can vote on another one like we did years ago in voting for this one. Maybe we can vote on another one because our city is growing. It's growing with businesses and residents. And we do have transients, not people that lost their jobs that are homeless. We have transients that disobey the law. They're the ones that we need to take off the street. But again, they got the right to be there. So don't mix them up. Don't mix up drugs, prostitution, and everything else that was mentioned. Okay? We don't know nothing. Well, we do know that this place is a new place and it will be handled through corporate. This is not a private owner. This is corporate. And I hope they keep their word. Okay? So another good thing that we heard today, only 35 trucks for 60 minutes. Not this 5,400, 4,000 trips. No, it doesn't work like that. You don't see all the trucks all at one time going down the street. No, it's in minutes and hours, they're all separate. Okay, there is a congestion just on the 60 freeway. It's because the box spring going up the hill and going down the hill, truck drivers, they downshift. And when they downshift, they slow traffic. And if you're behind them, you'll get caught up in it. Okay, that's the living fact. If you ride that freeway, that 60 freeway, that's a living fact. Once you go past University, you're taken off like lightning. Poof, you're gone. That's a fact. That's the truth. Let's stay on truth because I know we heard a lot of stories and I read a lot of things also myself about this project. And they always talk about negativity. Negativity. That has to stop. You cannot guess what's going on, and we cannot go back to things that happened 5 years ago. Okay, it's changed. I know we got problems, but these change and things do get better. Okay, so I know that things will get better, and I'm glad that there are not many trucks that are going to be going up and down the street. There'll be trucks and RVs and campers and pickups and trucks and cars coming off the freeway to do what? To buy gas and get back on again. They're not going to go down Redlands Boulevard to Alexandro or Cactus. They're not going to go that way. They're going to get back on the freeway and they're going to go wherever they want to go to. That's a living fact. They're not going to go visit your neighborhood. Okay? Yes, it's close, but it's not close enough. Okay? It's not close enough to stop this project from going forward. So there's been a lot of great time put into it for this project to be approved tonight. So I know what I'm going to do because I'm thinking of the thousands and thousands of residents that go up and down Redlands Boulevard and wish they could buy gas. And I cannot talk about AM and PM because that has not come to the commission. So I don't know if that's going to get approved. I don't know how they're going to build it. And another thing, that's on the other side of the freeway. That's not in front of the freeway. So please don't tell me that a truck is going to go past the freeway to buy gas and get back on again when he can buy gas on the corner and head home or deliver or pick up. That's the fact. The project is good. It's there. And it is not a zone change. It is not on the agenda, zone change. That it's already there. So it has nothing to do with zone change as we all read on some of these letters. It has nothing to do with it. Okay? So let's stick to the facts. Like I've been taught by all of you, the facts. It meets the general plan, and that's what we should be voting on. Did it meet the general plan? That's the vote, and I believe it did. Thank you.
I had I had a quick one, really quick, very quick. We did talk about Commissioner Chan and recusing himself because he wasn't in the other parts of it. There are other reasons why we should possibly talk about a recusal of ourselves. I had to recuse myself from a project because it was right next to me. I guess it's general proximity if we live really close to a project. Also, monetary gain or compensation that can happen with the commissioner. We also have to think about impartiality. If a project is going to affect us personally and causes any undue harm or gain or anything like that, then we have the right to, we have the obligation to be transparent and say, well, this project is going to affect me personally, whether or not to be traveling up and down the Redlands Boulevard of the 60 freeway, and it's going to cause me undue pain or suffering or something like that. And understand that if we make those statements, that we may be impartial to a project or have already expressed impartiality to a project because it is going to cause us particular pain, and we have the right, or we should have the obligation to recuse ourselves.
Okay. Commissioner Sims?
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple of points. I assume, Alvin, that or Commissioner DeJohnette, that was put to me. I do live within approximately a mile or so of this, and I do use Redlands Boulevard on a daily basis. So I am intimately familiar with the congestion that's already there, the actual infrastructure that's in place at Redlands Boulevard, and it's hard to get in and out of the neighborhood at going in the evening, in the afternoon. A couple of points for clarification. This is not called a fueling station. On our agenda, this is called a travel center. It's not. There is some ancillary benefits to the residents, but this is a travel center, and a bulk, if you read the traffic study, a bulk of the traffic is generated by bypass traffic that's going elsewhere than to our into our city. They are just people on the freeway doing their thing, going wherever they want to go, contributing to whatever they're going to do, and they're going to drop off their traffic, and they're going to drop off a few bucks here and there, which is going to generate, point of sales tax and some property tax increase for our city. I do believe as a planning commissioner, we do have reasons to recuse ourselves if we are within a certain limit. I think it's 600 feet. I am well outside of that on this project. Each and every one of us have to drive the 60 freeway. It's undeniable that it's congested, and for the reason that Mr. Bergeras said, there is a grade that is a thing that cannot be fixed. It is bad, and so all I'm just saying is we're cutting the tail of the dog off an inch at a time and making it worse and worse and worse. And when is it worse enough that when you're sitting in traffic? Right now it's Heacock in the morning, then it's going to go back to what's the next one? Paris Boulevard, then it's going to go to Nason. When is it worse? Is enough? Second of all, Moreno Beach has been half improved for maybe 15, 20 years. Michael Lloyd could probably give you the date. It's been half improved, and they're finally getting around, and I'll probably take another however year or so to get done. We don't know. The project like that is probably a $70 to $100 million project to build a bridge over the 60 freeway and associated on and off ramps. That it will be decades probably before that. And what we are potentially asking to do with the addition of this project, taking people that do not live in the neighborhoods around that area, either north or south, and adding on to their daily congestion and lack of quality of life. And I thought as planning commissioners, that is something that we are supposed to take into account, the quality of life of our citizens. And this project does not help that. There's a project, if the World Logistics ever gets going, it's designated for an area with a designated off-ramp for truckers and truck-like things. So, we can hope that everything's going to be great. I don't see the reason why we should invite people off of the 60 freeway, especially the truck traffic, right onto an intersection right there that off ramp and the overpass is not ready for this type of impact.
I don't believe it, but
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There is
right, doesn't believe it.
there is a
Don't
lot of
believe it.
property.
So I believe that it can work.
Right.
I believe it can work. We only predicted that it can't. I'm predicting that it can work.
Raphael, you don't drive that every day at 6:30 in the morning, and I would welcome you every morning to come get. You should have done that for the last 2 weeks.
I read it before, and I get up early, and I make time for myself for that particular thing. And once I get past university, it takes off.
But yeah, I don't.
Can I speak real quick?
Go ahead, Commissioner Kogia.
Things are getting a little heated, and Raphael, just to shed some light, I have. First of all, I'm even further out than Commissioner Sims. I'm way more than a mile from this proposed project, so I am not in conflict of interest. Second of all, I have a 36-foot motorhome, Class A. The truck stops, the fueling in the back doesn't work for any gas RV. Number two, they use special credit cards. You can't even use them to fuel. I used to pull a 40-foot fifth wheel with my diesel, and I still had to use the regular pumps like every car passenger for my RV and my fifth wheel when I had it. So just to let you know, I've had both, and I couldn't use those truck stop gas pumps. Only when I had my diesel truck, but even then, there was half the time I couldn't use my credit cards because you had to have some sort of special license to buy fuel from them. I'm just giving you facts because I've been having an RV and a trailer for 15 years, and you can't use those back ones. I know you kind of hung your hat on using them. Those are diesel type stations, and more than half I could never use them for my diesel truck. Now that I have a gas motorhome, I still can't use those backstops. I still gotta use, even if I stop at a truck stop, I still gotta use, just to clarify that. I know you hung your hat on that. This, for me, I like this project. I think it's beautiful. For me, I'm not saying I don't want it. What I am saying, it's not in the right spot. It's just not. And because I know that area well, it just to me, it's not in the right spot. We're all entitled to our own opinion. Let's give Commissioner Chen his chance, and let's vote, because I gotta wake up early in the morning.
Commissioner, if you'd like to make any comments, it's not necessary that you do, but if you would like to.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I want to start saying I know I got people on both sides who don't want me to vote tonight, and I'm going to do what I feel is right, because that's why I took on this challenge. A couple months ago, I ran for city council, and the big thing that a lot of the constituents in District 2 were talking about were just the two small warehouses on Heacock and Ironwood, right? And the trucks that are there. And, that's just two warehouses. So I understand the need for growth, but I have to agree with some of the other commissioners, and this isn't the right location. It's a beautiful project. I believe that, yes, the residents will use it, but will it be beneficial to take on all that, the traffic, the damage to the roads? If we have people who are living in that area saying how bad their traffic is at this moment, is it responsible to add on more? And I have to do what I feel is right. And I wanted to be the voice of the people, and I feel some of the people on this dais are speaking out against it. And I feel like this is a great project, just not the right location.
Okay, thank you so much. With that, I think we've pretty much, unless there's something new that needs to come to the table, but we all seem to have expressed our opinion. I would ask for a motion now from someone
I'll make the motion, I guess, how are we supposed to do this? I'll make a recommendation that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2022-01 and adopt resolution number 2022-02.
Okay, may I have a second?
I'll second that.
It sounded like Commissioner DeJarnay.
Yes.
Okay, and that's the second. Let's call for the vote.
Commissioner Bergeris,
Yes.
Commissioner Sims,
No.
Commissioner Cobian,
No.
Commissioner Chen,
No.
Vice Chair DeJarnay,
Yes.
and Chairperson Korsick.
No. So the vote is 2 in favor, 4 against. May we have a staff wrap up, please?
Given that the action this evening was a no vote, I would like to ask our interim city attorney to confirm whether or not any additional findings need to be made this evening.
Yeah, I would recommend that there be findings. In the municipal code, there are required findings that are required to be made if a project is approved. So if you're going to deny it, I would recommend that you make those findings in the negative. And let me just go through the 4 that you have to, the 4 findings that need to be made. So it would either have to be the proposed project is not consistent with the goals, objectives, policies, and programs of the general plan. The proposed project does not comply with all applicable zoning and other regulations. The proposed project will be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare, or materially injurious to properties or improvements in the vicinity, or the location, design, and operation of the proposed project will not be compatible with existing and planned land uses in the vicinity. So I suggest you pick one or all of those.
We've never been asked to do this before, and we have denied other projects. Is this something?
This is not new. This is what I would recommend. In the event we get sued, I would have to explain to the judge why it was denied. And I would have to cite specific findings. And so what I've heard tonight, though, I've heard some comments from a majority of you that lead to the conclusion that the majority believes that the proposed project will be detrimental to at least public welfare and materially injurious to properties or improvements in the vicinity, primarily because of traffic.
If I may,
the other issues that were raised.
Chair Korsick, if I may, just to kind of clarify that question you just asked, you actually made the findings not all that long ago, but it was specific with relation to the Moreno Valley Trade Center. But under the general plan, there's actually only a singular finding, which was ultimately what you were making when you took that action for denial of that project. That's why it's a little bit more, that's why it's a little unique compared to this, which is a conditional use permit. So that's why we're clarifying.
Okay, thank you very much.
We just need to make the link. I mean, I heard enough comments from you to
appreciate it, because this is new to us. We've never been asked this before. So do we have a discussion with the I'm not sure how to deal with it from here.
Sean.
Probably should make sure. Would it
Yes.
be that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So the 4th one could be the location and operation of the proposed project will not be compatible with existing and planned land uses in the vicinity due to, and we just add in the comments that were made by the commissioners in the majority.
Okay. How do the
one of them is traffic.
Oh, yeah, that is definitely. Can I get some input from the other commissioners on this?
I would tend to agree that the last two findings that are just a generic as you stated, Mr. Kidney, it would be appropriate as findings to support a no vote on this, based on what we did. Yeah. Traffic and then the lack of compatibility.
Lack of compatibility.
That works. How about the
Okay.
other? That okay? Works for me.
Okay, Sarah. Okay.
Okay. Well, I've heard no other comments, so I would say let's do it. Now can I move on?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
This has been a very unusual meeting, actually.
You're doing a great job.
Well, we don't usually do a continuance, and it gets kind of crazy knowing what you can discuss and what you can't. But I think everybody did very, very well, including the public on this.
My question would be this, and I don't know how this goes, is that generally when we vote electronically, when we're pressing the button, we don't call for a roll call vote. Generally, the mover doesn't vote. Once they move, they're done.
It's the way the equipment works, I believe, but what happens?
That changes the way we vote.
You can't change.
Vice Chair.
Go ahead.
While the mover, that is a system issue. That is not ultimately a mover can do both. Can make a motion to approve a project and can ultimately, at the time of review of taking the vote, they can take the action to deny.
Right.
It does not mandate that they have to approve it.
I just want to make sure we're doing
the computer system. We actually had a similar situation at a city council meeting within the past month, actually, where there was an item where that did occur.
Okay.
Right. But we just moved to a vote. All right. The next is, do you have to do a wrap up on?
Yes, ma'am, I do still have to do a wrap up
City
this
Attorney,
evening.
do we have to vote on that?
No.
No, the vote was already, do the findings need to be voted on, Steve?
I recommend that we, take another vote on the findings.
All right. Do we need to make a motion?
Yes, there's a motion to accept the findings that were just articulated by the city attorney.
Okay.
And Councilman and Commissioner Sims.
Okay. Can I have that motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we accept the findings as stated by the city attorney.
Okay. May I have a second? I'll second. Okay. So we call for the vote on this.
Correct.
Okay, great. We're moving along.
Okay, Commissioner Bergeris.
No.
Commissioner Sims.
Yes.
Commissioner Cobian.
Yes.
Commissioner Chen.
Yes.
Vice Chair Dejournay.
No.
And Chairperson Korzek.
Yes. Okay, so that motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you.
So anything else we need to do before I go to the final part of today's meeting?
Staff wrap up.
Okay, staff wrap up. Great.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Corsick. The action taken by the Planning Commission this evening is an appealable action, and the interested party that would like to file an appeal may do so within 10 days of this action. If an appeal is filed, it must be in writing and directed to the Community Development Director, stating the specific reasons for the appeal, along with the appeal filing fee. If an appeal is received, it will be agendized for a public hearing before the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is other commission business. At this time, we have no items. The next item on the agenda is staff comments. Do we have any staff comments at this time?
So, Chair Korzik, I do want to say thank you to the commission and the public for working with us as we did experience some technical difficulties this evening. Ultimately, I think we had a good meeting overall. So I do want to just thank everybody for that. I also am going to first welcome Commissioner Chen to joining the Planning Commission, and just appreciate all of you for your participation in this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Steve. Do you have anything?
The only thing I'd like to comment on is the vehicle miles traveled, because I had to explain it to a judge one time and I had a really difficult time explaining it. But then I figured, just make it really simple from a layperson's perspective. I'm not a traffic engineer, but the way I explained it is that we look at the mileage that is created, traveled miles that are created by a project, and within a certain time frame, let's say like a year. And the more miles traveled, the more intense the traffic is. And so that's a very simplistic layperson's explanation of that.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other staff comments?
Yes. Welcome, Commissioner Chen. Absolutely.
No, there are no further comments from staff. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, now we can go into commissioners' comments. Go ahead.
Welcome, Commissioner Chen. I didn't get a chance to welcome you earlier, so welcome. It's great to have you.
Are there any other staff?
I'd like to extend a warm welcome as well. And sorry, this was a goofy one. The last couple of months, I have been out of sorts from my usual nice self on the dais. But anyhow, generally I vote yes on everything. But anyhow, welcome to it. You're in the fray now, so it's a good time. So.
I think the expression is baptism by fire.
Yeah, good times.
This was perhaps one of our more contentious meetings, and so we do welcome you. Hopefully, things will run very smoothly from here on. Okay. Is there any other commissioners' comments?
Welcome, Commissioner Chen. I agree with the other commissioners. When I found out this was your first meeting, I said, "Oh wow, he's going to be in it." Because if this would have been my first, oh man, I probably would have had second thoughts. So,
what did I get into?
This is a good one.
I was the World Logistics Center, the big meetings. They were my second, third meetings on the commission, so I had kind of the same introduction to the Planning Commission.
But it's good to deliberate once in a while.
It means we're paying attention. I think it's great.
Yeah. There's no personal. We're just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I am going to call this meeting adjourned at 9:34 p.m. to our next regular meeting of February 24th, 2022. We thank the public for attending this, and have a good evening, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you. Good night.